Hi, everybody, and welcome aboard to Local Matters, where living local never felt so good. You know, Wayne Brady is an actor and comedian, and so he always appears happy. Most people know him because he is the host of the game show Let's Make a Deal. But what most people don't know is that Wayne suffers from depression, and for many years, he says, he was afraid to talk about it. He says it was a dark secret, but most recently, he opened up about his illness. And he says he only wished he would have opened up sooner because he says the secret of his disorder was killing him. We were able to get a soundbite from Bring Change to Mind.
I didn't want to talk about it earlier. Why would I want to seem like this sad sack? Those are all the lies that I told myself. It's like, oh, if I talk about this, even professionally with my job, if I talk about this, people won't want to watch me. It's not important enough. And even now, as I'm hearing myself saying all those things, like, wow, man, I really wish that I would have spoken out earlier, because there's nothing like being able to shine a light on those secrets. Those secrets kill.
And when we come back, we will discuss the beauty of shining a light on mental illness. You know why? Because if it's local, it matters.
Dance. Let me see you move.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. So good to have you join us here on Local Matters. You know, there's a stigma attached to mental illness, and because of that stigma, those who suffer from depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, and other mental illnesses, they do not want to talk about it, and neither do their family members. Most times they feel it best to just keep it hidden, ignore it altogether. But research tells us that that's not the best way to deal with these issues. Bringing these issues into the light of public discourse and talking about them is the first step in reducing that stigma and dealing with them. Joining me today is attorney and former circuit court judge, Miss Brenda Stedham. Welcome back.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a long time. You were
Appreciate
with me here on Local Matters when I first started almost 3 years, over 3
Yeah.
years ago now. You were
Yeah.
probably like show number 5, 6, 7. You were here, you were coming then to bring us some really important information about protecting our seniors and their money.
Right.
And now you're here with even more important information that's quite relevant, talking about mental illness
Right.
in our community. I know you've been working with a group of organizers, really working on, I think, a big event that's going to be happening soon. Tell us
Right.
all about that and who's involved.
Right. Well, John Garlick, who is our county mental health representative. We have Fred Smith from the Community Foundation.
Okay.
We have Julie Nix, who runs the JSU Counseling Center.
Okay.
And Linda Shelton, who also works there.
Yeah.
We have Dr. Lucy Morris, who's on our committee, and Kathy Folkley, who is a counselor.
Okay.
So we have a great group, and we also have a representative from Gadsden State, Michelle Conger. So we have a great group of committed individuals who wanted to do something to help reduce or remove the stigma.
Yeah. And that's great because the stigma has been around for a long time.
That's right.
You know, when I was coming up, I don't know about you, but when I was coming up, and especially in the African American community, if somebody in your family had a mental illness, you didn't talk about it. You didn't talk about it. A lot of times people were not, they didn't even really want them to be seen in public.
Right.
They may have even had them living down in the basement because they didn't want to talk about it, and
Right.
they wouldn't seek help. A lot
Right.
of that may have been due to lack of resources, but help was not there in the African American community. And most times they would just say, we're just going to have to pray it away to Jesus.
Right. And that just really doesn't work. I'm strong on prayer. I believe in
Yes.
prayer. I pray regularly, but it won't get rid of mental illness. And what we need to do is to encourage people to come and get treatment. And one of the main purposes of Out of the Shadows, which is our program, is to help reduce that stigma, help people realize that they can talk about it, that it helps to talk about it, and only by talking about it can you get the help you need.
I like that name, Out of the Shadows. What
Thank
is
you.
that? Where did that
Thank you.
come from? I like that name.
One of our committee members suggested it, and it was the idea of bringing those who suffer out of the shadows where they're hiding
As I
and
mentioned
into the
earlier.
day, into the daylight, and helping them get the resources that they need. So we were really proud of the name, and we're just fortunate that we had a creative person on our committee who thought of it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you guys are going to be having a real big event. Is that coming up
Right.
soon?
Yes.
It's a big event coming
May
up soon.
11th. It'll be at the Oxford Civic Center.
Is that the Friday right before Mother's Day, isn't it?
Yes.
That's the
yes,
Friday
it
before
is.
Mother's Day.
Yes.
Okay.
And it will start at 8:30, but we'll have breakfast and registration before then, and we'll be done by 4. Nurses, social workers, and counselors will get 6 hours of continuing education for the program. We will have a number of adults who suffer from mental illness and who attend the Highland Health
Yes.
Day program.
And they do an excellent job
They
there.
do.
I can attest to that.
They will.
They do an excellent job
Yeah,
there.
so about 70 of them will be with us, which we're really excited about, because by having folks who suffer mental illness in the same room with professionals and also family members, they will feel like they're accepted, which they are. And it worked beautifully last year, and we're just really excited about this year's program.
I know. When we come back, I've got to go to break, but I want to talk about what inspired you and others to really want to embrace and wrap your arms around mental illness. I'm glad to see it because, you know, when I look at television shows, we're going to talk about that too. It seems as though Hollywood too is also embracing mental illness. So when we come back, I want to talk about what inspired you. We'll be right back with more Local Matters. Don't go away. Hey everybody, welcome back to Local Matters. I'm Dottie Rimpsey, and welcome on back to Local Matters. We're living local, never felt so darn good. I'm joined here on this set with attorney Brenda Stedham. She's also a former circuit judge, and we have been sitting here talking about issues surrounding mental illness. You've been working with a group of concerned citizens and also professionals
Yes.
about this stigma that's attached to mental illness. And before we went to break, I wanted to find out what inspired you to want to say, I want to do more. I want to do more because we know there are so many people in our community and beyond that suffer from various different aspects of mental illness.
Right. I had a friend who committed suicide, and my friend suffered from mental illness all of her adult life. And I just felt like there was something I needed to do. I had a call on my heart to do something.
To do
I
something.
didn't know what, but I wanted to do something that might help prevent another suicide, or might help people accept that they have mental illness and get treatment, or it might help the community to be supportive and not shun these people who have mental illness.
Like we have so many years in the past.
Right.
We would shun it, try to ignore it away, pray it away, hope it'll just go away.
Right.
And now you're trying to do something.
Right.
And it's
Right.
not just, you know what, it's wonderful to see the community now pulling together and realizing that so many people have, they suffer with depression and anxiety and bipolarism. And it's, you know, Jacksonville State University does an excellent job. And I'm not just saying that because that's my alumni. They have a complete program that's disability services.
Right.
They work. And every semester when school starts, I will have several students that will walk up with their disability service, their DSS letter, letting me know that they have some things that they are trying to deal with. And as an instructor, when I receive it, I know then that I'm going to work with this student a little bit different.
Right.
Years ago, we didn't have that program in Jacksonville State. So if you just didn't fit in, you were just out.
Right.
You just out
Right.
cold.
That's right.
Uh,
That's right.
Another reason why I'm really glad to see what you're doing is that even Hollywood is embracing this mental illness. And I think there's a show that I really love. I love it. It's Empire, one of my favorite shows. And it's most of my students, they laugh, they go, I can't believe you watch Empire, Ms. Rimpsey, because it's really more designed for millennials. It's young. It's about this African American family that's regal in their own way in the world of music
Right.
and rap, and they're very rich and powerful in their own world. But they really do embrace the issue of mental illness because the older son, he's smart, he graduated from Ivy League College, but he has a mental illness.
Right.
And they show this. And so I like what they're doing because now they're even, in the African American community, they're realizing that it's okay.
Right.
It's okay.
Right.
I know you've got a full day a lot's going to be happening back here on May 11th. Tell
Right.
me what's going to be taking place. What type of activities will you have for this event?
We're really excited. Our keynote speaker will be Lynn Beshears, who's the commissioner of the State Department of Mental Health. And we can't wait to hear from her and get her thoughts and encouragement and support. But we also have speakers who will talk about stress management, who will talk about mental illness in older people and how to deal with that. We will have an MD doctor come and talk about substance abuse which occurs with mental illness, which is really tough. And Dr. Joe Howell's going to speak. We're going to have just a great group. One thing that I'm especially excited about is that the local United Way has gotten a big grant to start a new program. Shannon Jenkins is starting this.
Okay,
and
good for Shannon.
Katina Stroud is involved.
okay.
Houston Stroud is involved in it.
Okay.
It's called I Am More.
I Am More.
And there will be in 3 schools, Pleasant Valley and Wellborn and one of the Anston schools this year. They've just started it.
Okay.
And what they do is they identify kids who are in kindergarten who might be at risk for developing mental illness or who might be living in a home with mental
Oh
illness.
my gosh, I can't believe,
Right.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Right,
I really, really am.
right. It's wonderful.
I really am happy to hear that because, when my kids started school, my older one, we were in Hartford, Connecticut. And when he was just, I think maybe in the 1st or 2nd grade, my older one, they had diagnosed him with, I think it was ADHD.
Right.
With ADHD. And that was in the 90s, that was a big buzzword,
Right.
ADHD. And at first I didn't want to accept it. I was like, no, my child doesn't have ADHD.
Right.
You just don't know how to deal with him.
Right.
And I really kind of ignored it. But they were already there in Hartford having those types of programs where they could
Right.
identify. And
Right.
they were pretty much right that he
Right.
did have that. I mean, they wanted to put him on Ritalin. We got him on Ritalin for a while. And then I took him off because he was in such a great, and then we moved back here to Alabama. He did well.
Great.
He did
That's
well. I got him
great.
off, but he was in a great environment, a very
Right.
structured environment, but you have to keep it up. You have to
Right.
keep that up.
Right. Well, this program will also be working with the families. There will be counselors and nurses and several other professionals that will work with the whole family and try to help create more health in the home and help people who are in the home to get treatment and help the kids who might be at risk
Right.
to develop skills that might help them avoid getting depressed and so on. But it's just a great project, and those people who are involved with that program will have a panel discussion.
Okay, so there'll
On
be a
that.
panel discussion.
Right.
All right. When we
Right.
come back, I want to talk more about what's going to take place at different types of activities, who's going to be there and talking about what. This is going to take place May the 11th. It's going to be in Oxford, I believe. We'll talk more about it when we come right back. I've got to go to break. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, welcome back to Local Matters. I'm Dottie Rimpsey. Welcome on back. Well, living local never felt so darn good. You know, I've been sitting here all morning long talking with attorney and former circuit court judge, Miss Brenda Stedham, and we have really been talking about issues that are quite prevalent in our communities, and we're talking about issues of mental illness. You said earlier in the top of the hour that what really inspired you to want to do more is because you had a friend to commit suicide.
Right.
And we've been hearing about this more and more in communities, people committing suicide. We know that there are so many people. I bet you right now, if you are watching at home, I don't know how many people could raise their hand if they could say they had at least one person in their family or knew of at least one person that they've worked with over the years. If they could raise their hand, I bet you probably 95% of people could raise their hand and say, I know somebody that, I worked with somebody, or yes, I have a cousin or a sister or a child that suffers with mental illnesses. And so to have what you guys are doing, coming together and addressing this, is really wonderful. Tell me more about what's going to be taking place.
Okay, one of the programs that we're really excited about this year is we're going to have a speaker who's going to talk about healthcare disparities, that is resources for persons of color, because there is not enough in that area. And we're fortunate that Gloria Johnson, who is the head of the county NAMI, the National Association for Mental Illness, is the person who's gotten this program.
Okay.
We also have Dr. Christopher Randolph, who's going to talk about mental health for older adults. Dr. Jim Alford, I've mentioned. Dee Barcliff is really good at stress management. The people who go to that breakout session love that. And Chaplain Jim Wilson is going to be talking about coping with the storms of life. But we have so many different programs. There will be 3 or 4 breakout sessions going all the time. Okay. So they'll have a choice of which one they want to see.
So lunch will be served. You mentioned it's all day. It's from like 8:30. And this will be in Oxford. Where is it going to be, though?
At the Civic Center.
At the Civic Center.
Right. We're really blessed. They've allowed us to use all the second floor for our program. So we appreciate Oxford for letting us do that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm just, you mentioned that you guys have a program that's going to be going into some of the schools.
Right. Right.
Working with teachers, working with parents. How was that going to unfold?
Okay. The program is called I Am More. The local United Way chapter got a grant from United Way to start a program, and Shannon Jenkins, who runs United Way, Katina Stroud, who is very involved in treatment programs, and she was one of the planners. John Garlick, our county mental health officer, was very involved with that program, and Kathy Folkley, one of our other committee members, is very involved. They will actually have children who are identified in kindergarten through, I think, 8 years old, who are at risk for having mental illness due to environment or genetics or whatever it is. And they will work with that child and with the family and provide counseling and nursing services and educational services to help this family and this child from having problems, or at least to alleviate some of the problems before they get worse.
Before they get worse. And I'm glad to hear it, because it's not so. If there's a family member that is suffering from mental illness or whatever it might be, it's because we have to understand it's not just that person's problem.
Right.
It's not just Johnny's problem. It's the entire family that will be impacted by it.
That's right.
So I'm glad to see that they're going to be working with the entire family.
Right.
I'm really happy to see that.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up the full screen. Excuse me. The full screen. I want to bring that up, Aaron, if you don't mind. Then this is where you can register. If you want to go out to learn more about what's going to be taking place in some of the schools here in the area, you can go online and register at www.jsu.edu. CEO, give them a call, 256-782-5918 to register. It's not too late.
Right.
Because yeah, it's not too late
It's not.
to register. This is taking
not.
place May the 11th.
May the 11th, it's a Friday, and we encourage not only professionals, but also consumers of mental health treatment and their families. There will actually be at least one program that is focused on the family. One of our team members is Sue Guffey, and she's the former head of the state NAMI, and she's been trained in how to work with families and help them deal with the problems that mental illness causes.
Yeah, I want to thank you for coming aboard Local Matters and for what you're doing and all the others of what they're doing, because resources is the key. Whenever there's are issues going on in communities and of mental illness or whatever it is, the answer is the community getting involved. You have to have the resources to combat it, at least. And I'm so glad that you're working to get that stigma down of calling people crazy or these types of things, and understanding that if they get the right treatment and they get on meds, they can live productive lives. We hope you will come back and join us next week. You know why? Because if it's local, it matters.
Great job.
Woo! Okay, look, I like sitting in our seats.